Michael had always been careful with money. At 67 years old, he lived on a fixed income. Every month looked exactly the same: rent, electricity, insurance, medication. By the time those bills were paid, there wasn't much left. His doctor had diagnosed him with type 2 diabetes several years earlier. At every appointment, the advice was the same: watch your blood sugar, eat balanced meals, stay active, take your medication as prescribed. Michael always smiled and nodded, but inside he kept asking himself one question: how am I supposed to afford all of that? Healthy food seemed too expensive. Glucose testing supplies cost money. Fresh produce didn't always fit into his budget, and after paying for his medications, there were many weeks when fast food seemed like the cheapest option. So he made the choices that felt easier on his wallet: a large soda instead of water, a burger and fries because they were on sale, packaged snacks because they lasted longer on the shelf. He stopped checking his blood sugar regularly because he didn't want to waste his testing supplies. If I don't feel sick, he would tell himself, I'm probably doing okay. Weeks turned into months. Months turned into more than a year. Little by little, his diabetes became something he ignored instead of managed. Then, one Tuesday morning, everything changed. Michael woke up feeling exhausted. His vision was blurry. His mouth was so dry he could barely speak. When he tried to stand, his legs felt weak. He took a few steps toward the kitchen, hoping a glass of water would help. Instead, he collapsed onto the floor. His neighbor heard the noise and immediately called 911. At the emergency room, doctors rushed to stabilize him. His blood sugar was dangerously high. He was severely dehydrated. The doctors told him that if he had waited much longer, the outcome could have been far worse. Michael spent several days in the hospital recovering. When he finally returned home, he found a stack of unopened mail waiting for him. Among the envelopes was the hospital bill. He opened it slowly. His hands began to shake. The amount was more money than he had spent on groceries in an entire year. He sat quietly at the kitchen table. Tears filled his eyes, not because he had ignored his health, but because he truly believed he couldn't afford to take care of it. He had spent months trying to save money. Instead, he ended up paying a price far greater than he had ever imagined. At his follow-up appointment, his primary care provider sat beside him instead of across the room. She didn't criticize him. She simply asked, Michael, what made managing your diabetes so difficult? For the first time, he answered honestly, I wasn't choosing between good food and bad food. I was choosing between paying my bills and taking care of myself. His provider nodded with understanding. Then she said something that changed everything. Let's find a plan that fits your health and your budget. Together they created a realistic plan. She switched him to lower-cost generic medications where appropriate. She connected him with financial assistance programs for diabetes supplies. She referred him to a diabetes educator who taught him how to prepare healthy meals without spending a fortune. He learned that simple foods like beans, oats, eggs, frozen vegetables, canned tuna, and brown rice could help manage his diabetes without emptying his wallet. his provider encouraged him to begin with one simple goal. Walk for 10 minutes after dinner every evening. Not an hour. Not a gym membership. Just 10 minutes. It sounded almost too simple. But Michael committed to it. One day became 1 week. 1 week became 1 month. 6 months later, he walked back into the clinic with a smile. His blood sugar had improved. He had lost weight. He had more energy. His blood pressure was better controlled. Most importantly, he no longer felt trapped between his health and his finances. He had learned something he wished someone had told him years earlier. Taking care of your health doesn't always require expensive foods, expensive gyms, or expensive equipment. Sometimes it starts with asking for help. Sometimes it starts with learning about the resources available in your community. And sometimes it starts with one small decision that you repeat every single day. Today, whenever someone tells Michael they can't afford to manage their health, he shares his story, not to make them feel guilty, but to remind them that delaying care often becomes far more expensive than preventing illness. The cost of prevention is almost always less than the cost of an emergency. If you're struggling because of money, don't suffer in silence. Talk to your healthcare provider. Ask about generic medications. Ask about community resources. Ask about assistance programs. There may be more help available than you realize, because no one should have to choose between paying their bills and protecting their health. Thank you for watching. If you enjoy these health stories and want to see more, please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Now we'd love to hear from you. Have you ever faced a health challenge while living on a fixed income? What did you do to overcome it? Was there a habit, resource, or piece of advice that made a real difference? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could give someone else hope, encouragement, or even the information they need to change their own life. Together, we can build a community where people support one another, learn from one another, and remind each other that no one has to face these challenges alone. And if you'd like to wear a message that inspires you every day, explore our motivational apparel using the link below. Until next time, take care of yourself and take care of each other.